WiLLcast number 39 was with our friend Josh Bilicki.
Only three-peat.
Three-peat?
He is a three-peat guest. He just shows up every 15 episodes or so and gives us a little life update on what's going on with him on the track.
He does, and he's always busy.
He's always
busy racing, busy finding partnerships.
We caught him on an off weekend.
We did.
I think is
coming off of a very busy weekend.
Yes, which is what made it fun, coming off Road America, getting to talk to him.
Yes, and he was nice enough to have us back as an associate sponsor at Road America for the 4th of July weekend. He did double duty that weekend. He ran in the Xfinity race and the Cup race.
And you were there.
I was there. We had a nice crew. We had a nice crew. The weather was great.
Sorry to have missed it.
As you'll see from the episode, I did have a pretty nice sunburn.
Such a tan. You still have a tan.
But that's Road America. That's Road America in the summer. It's bratwurst and sunburn.
Just baking out there.
But yeah, we touched on just kind of the experience of shifting back and forth between two different types of cars. Whether it's the transmission in one car versus the other. Xfinity versus Cup. How he prepares for a weekend. And yeah, it was nice to catch up. He had some fun things happen during the race on Saturday, and
shout out Sargento.
Yeah, exactly, and connected with possibly a new sponsor. So
I hope it works out for him.
That's always good. But any other thoughts on
just a really humble guy? It's always fun having Josh in, and just super humble, super pro Wisconsin. Loves working with local sponsors and keeps his head down, races hard, and he's a good guy. It's fun to have him around.
The combination of humility and hard work and being a race car driver and a business guy all at the same time. It's always refreshing to see.
I am always pleasantly surprised or caught off guard, however you want to say it. Every time he talks about the business side of racing, it always floors me how much time he's putting in just to be able to go out there and race, let alone the actual time preparing to race physically and mentally with iRacing and stuff like that.
There's a lot to it.
That's the piece of it that I think is just so understated with some of these smaller team drivers.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy episode 39, which is also brought to you by the Ledge Games.
The Ledge Games, our favorite Saturday in September every single year. It is
last Saturday, right?
The last Saturday in September. This year will be September 24th. Events kick off at 8 a.m. It is an amateur timber competition, which raises funds to support local tech education and manufacturing, engineering, IT, and related fields. So it's a celebration of local manufacturing and all the great work that's happening in the Fond du Lac, Lake Winnebago region.
We have spots open for sponsors and
competitors, volunteers, you name it. We'll take them, sign them up.
Well, cool. We'll see you there. And if you want to sign up as a sponsor or as a competitor, go to theledgegames.com or ledgegames.com.
It will redirect to the proper page. Yes.
Well, enjoy episode number 39 with Josh Bilicki. So how does a race week start out? Like what does Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday look like? So you're at Road America this last weekend running 2 races. How do you ease into the week, or do you kind of dive right in?
Yeah, so Road America weekend is really high on my list every year, but it's also the most work. It requires so much effort from planning with sponsors and budgets to making sure all of my guests are taken care of. I mean, obviously with Wisconsin Lighting Lab on board, you guys had guests coming up, and making sure you guys are taken care of before I actually get to the racetrack is very important to me. So the planning for that race weekend usually starts months prior. And this year we unfortunately had some sponsorship dilemmas like a month before the race. Yep. So I was kind of scratching my head and working a little bit harder than I would have liked. But my race weekend, like for example, Road America probably started last month. I mean, probably even before that. So just planning budgets, planning, who can use our pit passes, because we only get so much. NASCAR is not very keen to work with us on some of that. So when it gets to that Monday, Tuesday of the race week, I try to become just a driver, which is really hard to do when I manage a lot of my own sponsors and all the guests at the racetracks. I mean, we had, I think, 125 guests total this weekend between Ziegler Auto Group, Wisconsin Lighting Lab, Gravely, Professional Plating, my family, and I think about 75 of them probably had pit passes. So we had to buy a bunch of extra, and making sure all of those are taken care of. I try to do that well into, prior to the race weekend. So Monday,
I feel bad about bugging you then when I got there on Friday.
No, every sponsor is just.
So how come I can't get into the pits?
No, and I'm glad you were taken care of. But no, that's one perk to Spire Motorsports this year is they have PR people and people in place to kind of help when I'm driving, because the double duty race weekends are pretty tough for me, especially Saturdays. I'm on track in the Cup Series practicing Saturday morning, qualify right away after, and then I have an hour to eat and debrief about practice and qualifying
and
before I go to the
Friday
Xfinity car.
too, right?
Friday
too. Qualifying.
Yep. So, anyways, to answer your question, my Monday, Tuesday, I try to just be a driver and try to look at study old film. Do a lot of iRacing. I prepped on iRacing a lot.
Yep.
And a matter of fact, I actually ran iRacing after the race weekend too, and it is crazy how accurate the braking points are, the turning points, the reference points. It is pretty cool.
Well, I saw the video you posted on Instagram, and then I shot you a message because I thought you were going pretty deep into that video into 5. How close was that in reality?
Brake points were actually very, very close.
Were they really?
Very identical in the Cup Series car. Now, the Cup cars in iRacing were a lot faster. So I don't know where they're making speed. I think just carrying more corner speed and track conditions too change a lot in iRacing.
Yep.
But, I mean, as far as braking points and reference points on iRacing, it was almost spot on. So for turn 5 example on iRacing, I was braking at the 4 marker in the next gen car, which is a lot deeper than any other NASCAR race car I've driven.
And it's the same weight. This car is the same weight, but has bigger brakes. And
it's probably a little bit heavier than last year's car.
Okay.
But it does have much bigger brakes.
Yep.
So in real life, every lap I was braking at the 4 marker.
Okay.
Turn 1, going into turn 1, I was using either pit out where the where basically the wall ends.
Where there's the access road too.
Yep, or there's the access road.
Yep.
So it's in the Xfinity car, my braking point going into turn 1 is pit road out where that wall ends. And the Cup car, my braking point was actually the access road. So you kind of find a balance of that. But on iRacing, again, very, very close to where it was in real life. So again, my Monday, Tuesday, I just try to study as much film as I can, watch as much, play as much iRacing as I can, and just kind of clear my mind.
One of the things I found interesting was the Xfinity cars were faster than the Cup cars.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, in the Xfinity car, you have an H pattern transmission. The Cup cars and an X track transmission, so it's sequential. That's always, even in vintage weekends and vintage events, when you're running multiple cars, it can be tough to go back and forth. Like, how do you prepare to do both cars for this type of weekend when Road America is so busy too?
Yeah. So actually, I was in a competition meeting with my team, Spire Motorsports, on Tuesday after the race weekend, and my teammate Corey LaJoy, he's a very well-known driver.
For sure.
He struggled really bad on the road course at the beginning of the weekend, and then by the end of the race, by the end of the Cup race, he was really fast.
He was fast, yeah.
But my team and some of our advisors were talking about, asking me, how did that help me, running the Xfinity car? And for me, being at Road America, it always helps to have laps. I have more laps at Road America than I think almost any other driver in the NASCAR field.
Yep.
But for somebody, like we're going to Indy road course, and for me to run Xfinity prior helps me so much because we have such short practice. Like, we have 15, 20-minute practice sessions, and we go right to qualifying afterwards. Somebody like Corey LaJoy or even myself at Indy, where I haven't raced at Indy very much, it helps us just get accustomed to the track again.
Yep.
Because with the short practice, we used to have 3 one-hour-long practice sessions. We don't have that anymore. We have 20 minutes. You have to run as hard as you can for all the 20 minutes, see what your car's going to do. And just to have that extra seat time helps. Now, the cars, they do feel a lot different. The new next-gen car has different brakes. It has a sequential shifter. It has a different steering rack. It's actually a steering box. Well, the Xfinity car's a steering box.
Yeah.
The Cup car's a steering rack. And
the
that whole
the arrow's all different as
Yep.
well. They've got the
diffuser,
the diffuser,
a big
in the back.
diffuser on the back of the Cup car. So they drive a lot different,
Yep.
but at the end of the day, they're still race cars. I think you notice it a lot more when you're running an oval. How they drive on an oval is completely different. On a road course, they still feel like big, heavy stock cars.
Yeah. So did you make any mistakes shifting?
No, I didn't.
Really?
Actually, nope, not at all. The biggest issue actually in the Xfinity car is wheel hop.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've ever had wheel hop.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
it's not fun. The Cup car, you don't have any wheel hop.
Yep.
Matter of fact, the Cup car, the brakes are so good, sometimes the brakes are better than the tires. So you actually have a lot of sway in the rear end of the Cup car because the brakes are just better than the tires, and the tires can't really keep up. The Xfinity car, occasionally you'll have a lot of wheel hop.
And that's
Road
probably in
America-
part because of the steel. The wheels are so much heavier.
Yep.
And then in the Cup car, they're aluminum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So I didn't miss shift, knock on wood. Hopefully I don't do it at all this year. But you have seen some drivers go back and forth at end of the race. I mean, Tyler Reddick, he won the Cup race on Sunday. Practicing in the Xfinity car, he missed a shift.
Really?
So it was it's not very uncommon for that to happen.
Oh yeah, when we were in line getting our credentials, we were talking to some guy from X-Track, the transmission company for the Cup cars. We were kind of picking his brain on how the transmission's holding up and what other series they're in. He's talking about where some of the parts are made. And he said they really haven't had too many issues with the X-Track this year, other than he said, is it
Denny Hamlin?
Denny Hamlin. He must have done an upshift when he should have done a downshift, because he more or less, your brain goes back to it being an H pattern.
Yep.
So it can definitely happen with the
opposite of that. So we were at Las Vegas. He was coming out of the pits from second to third gear.
Oh, and he went.
And in the 4-pattern gearbox, you go from second to third, so you're going back up. Well, he went from second to first instead of second to third. He pushed it forward instead of pulling it back, and it ended his race. It blew up the engine. So that's, knock on wood, the only time that's happened in the Cup Series, and I haven't had that problem yet because I've driven a lot of cars with that sequential gearbox.
Yeah, yep. And you did really well in qualifying on Friday. That was fun to watch. I got back from the track and I put it on, and you were 0.3 seconds away from making the top 10.
Yeah, so that was in the Xfinity car, and the Xfinity car in practice we were 12th, I think.
Yep.
We had a really good car. I felt really good about qualifying into the top 10, but we had some brake problems at the end of practice. So I was a little hesitant on my qualifying lap, especially the first half of the lap. Like, the track is so long, and the tires, are 2 to 3 seconds. They're fall off by the end of their life.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
2 to 3 seconds. So that first out lap in qualifying, it's basically a one lap, and that's it. That's what the tires have. So the first out lap, you're going really, really slow. So I never got on the brakes really hard until going into turn 1 on my actual lap. So I was probably about 100 feet too early. And
Ooh, that's a big distance.
That was probably two tenths right there.
Yeah.
Going to 3, I was probably a little bit too early too, and I guarantee I gave up 3 or 4 tenths just in the first half of the lap under braking. The last half of the lap, I knew the brakes were good, so I pushed as hard as I could. Had I pushed that, that maximum potential of the car that whole lap, I think we would have probably been half a second up.
And both team cars ran
Yep.
really well.
Yeah. So 12th, my teammate Sage Karam, and then 13th myself. So that was our team's best qualifying effort of the year as a whole with both cars. And I'm a little disappointed to get in the top 10 though, because I think it was definitely possible. So we'll have to try that again next year.
Nice. Well, one thing I was wondering too, when you guys come out of the pits on fresh tires, how long does it take for the tires to get up to temp? I know when we're racing over there, we can go a whole lap on the warm-up lap and the pace lap, scrub tires in as much as possible, on the brakes, off the brakes, trying to bring things up to temp. And it still takes another lap, essentially, for tires to come up to temp. What is that like exiting the pits?
Yeah, so it's about a lap, basically.
Yep.
I would say if you're under green conditions and you exit the pits, by the time you come past the start-finish line the next lap, they should be up to temperature. You definitely feel it in some of the slower corners, turn 3, turn 5.
Yeah.
It just doesn't want to turn.
Yep.
And it's not so much a drive-off issue. It's not so much rear tires. It's more the front tires. But these cars are so heavy that they do generate heat into the tires really quick.
Yep. And was it stage 1? Did you came out of the pits, or Chase came out of the pits pretty close to you? Did you end up getting around him after stage? I thought there was something weird that happened.
So in the Cup Series race, some of the top drivers, they pit.
Yeah.
And I think Chase, he was in the lead when he pit.
He
He came out right behind me.
Right behind
And
you. Okay.
he had fresh tires, and he was just going to ride, and we were going to score stage points.
Yeah.
But Kyle Larson was not too far from him. He
Gotcha.
was pressuring Chase.
Okay.
And obviously, if he would have got around Chase by the time they, took the green flag to start the second stage, Kyle Larson would have been in the lead.
Yeah.
So they started racing a little bit harder, and they had fresh tires, and I had not fresh tires.
Yeah.
And they just drove around me. So unfortunately, we didn't get the stage points that we wanted to. But
Gotcha.
I think I think we should have. Just unfortunately, we didn't.
So what are some other highlights from the Xfinity race on Saturday?
It was such an up and down day for us. So, we qualified 13th. Before we knew it, by the end of stage 1, we were into the top 10. I think we were running 8th, and that was off the speed. Like, we had a really good car, really fast car. It was the best car I've ever had. It was a caution with 2 laps to go in stage 1, and that ended the stage. Unfortunately, under caution, I didn't even know, but I ran over something, and our right rear tire went flat. So we had to pit before the caution, or before the stage end even came out, and we lost those stage points. So we did that. Because we pit when the pits were closed, we had to start dead last, which I think at that time was like 32nd, 33rd.
Yep.
Worked our way back all the way up into the top 15. And then we were in that big, massive wreck on the back stretch, or in the middle of the track, which was around turn 4, and I picked up that Sargento sign. So that was probably a highlight of the weekend. I mean, if you ask anybody on social media, they're gonna tell you that was probably a highlight of the weekend.
So that's a guaranteed sponsorship for next year.
I will say they actually just called me on the way here. Swear to God. So Tuesday
Nice.
right away, I put together a marketing deck. Actually Monday, I put together a marketing deck. I sent it off Tuesday morning.
Strike
right
while
away.
the iron is hot.
And they yeah, they've actually had some fun with it on social media too. They
Yeah, I
changed
saw
their
that.
background picture, Sargento did, on their Facebook and on their Twitter. And then when they changed it back to whatever it was previously, there were a bunch of NASCAR fans that were not too happy with that. And I commented on it. I think it's a fun. I mean, I think it's fun to have that.
Yeah.
But that was probably the highlight of the Xfinity race. And we battled back, and we ended up having more up and down after that wreck, but we finished 13, so I think that was a respectable finish.
Do you mentally prepare yourself for wrecks like that? Because that wreck had potential to be about as bad as it gets. I mean, to have, the track is very narrow there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a small patch of grass on both sides of the track. It was shortly after a caution.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
I mean, do you go through the motions in your head on what you'll do in that type of situation, or you just kind of go with the flow?
I did not expect a wreck right there. I mean, there's no spotters there.
Yeah.
And usually you never see a wreck on that straightaway. I've
Yeah.
only seen one.
Yeah.
And that was in a vintage race, actually.
I know which one you're
think it
referring
was,
to.
I think
Corvette
a
and
Ford
a
driver.
it was
and a
Cor-
Porsche.
Yep.
So I never mentally prepare for that. I mentally prepare for getting
The kink at
shipped.
12.
Not even that.
Yeah.
I prepare for getting shipped off in a corner by
Yeah.
somebody behind me who either loses brakes or they're just driving over their head.
Yeah.
Like if I'm Noah Gregson, which Noah's a friend of mine, I would not have done that move. If I'm mad at Sage Karam, who's my teammate, I would have just shipped him in the corner. You know, go a little bit deeper into turn 5, push him straight off, and let him fall back to 30th or wherever it is,
And not wreck 10
don't
other
wreck
cars.
10 other cars. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean that hurt some other drivers. It hurt their cars, it hurt their
Yep.
budgets. So I did not mentally prepare for that. And I'm just lucky that I got hit in the rear. I got hit in the rear just enough to kind of scoot me off track to the left. Everything was to the right. I mean, the track was blocked. Everything to the right and the grass was blocked. So I am very lucky I didn't go right, because had I gone right, it would have 100% ended our day, and it would have been a hard hit.
So what is the amount of time between when you first see dust flying, you see cars spinning, and when you get hit? Half a
It was
second?
probably
A
half
second?
a second, 2
Yeah.
seconds. Well, this one actually, I was probably 13th or 14th in line when it happened, and I saw a bunch of dust, but I saw nobody really check up. So I let off the throttle a little bit, and before you know it, I see cars ahead of me going sideways, and I saw one car actually go airborne, Landon Castle, and that's when I got on the brakes really hard, and I slowed down faster than the cars behind me, and that's why they hit me. So it happened so fast, and it was probably 2 or 3 seconds, and then I'm already out of the mess.
So then you get hit, you veer to the left, and I think was there one other car on your outside? I think I saw.
He's
from
actually the
video.
car that hit me.
The
John Hunter Nemechek. So
okay, so
he hit my left rear quarter panel. I think it turned me.
Yep.
I think it turned me left, and we ended up actually going side by side too. But I hit
Yeah.
the wall pretty hard. I took out that Sargento
and then
sign.
you picked up the sign.
Yep.
I saw you were trying to get rid of it all the way into 5, and I was just shocked that the sign it must have almost attached to the car.
Sorry, this is great.
Yeah, I mean it was.
Because I don't think it was pure wind force, unless it was that symmetrical on the front of the car where it wasn't going to fall off. But
yeah. So I mean the cars do have kind of a point in the nose.
oh, they
so
do. Okay.
I thought
so it kind of
that.
bent around the car a little bit.
Yeah, but I thought that I could kind of weave the car
Yeah.
and it could come off one of the sides, but it didn't do that. So when it first happened, when I was in the grass and I hit that sign, I actually thought that I hit another car, and I thought that it crumpled the hood. I
Gotcha.
thought that the front of our car was destroyed.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, it was all dust, it was grass everywhere. I didn't know what I hit. I didn't even think about the sign. So I radioed to my team while I'm in the grass. I'm like, I think we're done. Like, we're in this wreck, we're done. So my team is like, they're worried, they're
Yeah.
freaking out. And I get back on pavement, and I'm like, actually, my nose is here. My hood, I can still see my
What
hood's
is this
flat.
thing?
What is this thing? It's a sign. That's
Yeah.
what it is. So I'm like, now I got to get it off. The next problem is it's going to block all the air intake,
Yeah.
and the car's going to overheat. So luckily, I went around turn 5, put it in reverse, backed up. It just dropped.
You stopped.
I did.
You actually went in reverse?
I went to reverse.
Oh, that's right.
And it fell straight, and I make sure I did a burnout over
And
it.
you went right over the top.
And I looked in my rearview mirror, and I saw it go flying behind me. So
Yeah.
I was hoping somebody would have that on video, but it was pretty comical.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was, I guess, there's a lot of carnage in that wreck, but it was something kind of funny that happened.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing that came out of the wreck, unfortunately. But we'll take a positive from a negative like that.
Exactly. And then later in the race, you got spun in
Yes.
13,
Yep. 14.
14.
So talk about an up and down day.
Yeah.
We were back, I think, into the top 15, and I was racing Jeb Burton, who I respect Jeb. He's a buddy of mine.
Yep.
I don't think he liked how hard I was racing him, but I was a lot faster than him, and every time I would get to his outside or his inside, he would just race me really ridiculously. So I shoved my nose going to 13. We were side by side going 13, and I had the preferred line through 13. But then once you get to 14, you're on the outside, and that's not preferred. So he just completely closed the door on me and pushed me off track, and it wasn't very. I didn't respect that move, but we came back, and actually later in the race, I think the second last lap, he spun himself out. Like he just overcooked into turn 12 and just spun himself. So I'm like, all right, well that took care of itself.
Yeah. So, as a guy that's driven a few race cars in amateur racing, I always think about, what it would be like to run pro. And you thought about that at one point, and now you're running pro. But in an Xfinity race, what different types of drivers are out there? Are there super congenial drivers? There's the drivers that are just, it seems like they're out for blood in every single corner.
Yes.
But are you, how many different categories of drivers, and are you just constant? Do you have every car number and driver memorized before the weekend so you know who is around you at all times?
Mostly, yes. I mean, in the Xfinity Series, you have one of every kind of driver. You have the guy that's going out there to race for the win every single weekend, and he'll wreck the field if he has to, and you saw that this weekend. You have the drivers who are kind of like myself, who are a little bit more reserved, but know when the time is to go.
Yep.
You have the drivers in between that, and then you have the guys who just you want to stay away from, because even though they might not mean to wreck you, they might accidentally wreck you because they're not that good on a road course or just on an oval.
Yep.
So you have each category of driver in the Xfinity Series. And in my opinion, that's probably why the Xfinity Series is so fun to watch.
It is.
The Cup Series, everybody is so good. Nobody barely makes mistakes. This year I think you've seen a little bit more mistakes in the past, like even just drivers by themselves.
New car, right?
Yep, new car. These cars are really edgy in the Cup Series. So, I mean, like Kyle Busch spun out by himself. Like no other car by him. Ryan Blaney spun out by himself. On the Cup Series, these cars are kind of glued to the track in the Cup Series, and very few mistakes are made in the Cup Series. Now, the Xfinity Series, there's a lot of mistakes, there's a lot of attrition, there's a lot of aggression, and I don't know. I thought the Saturday race was probably a little bit more exciting as a fan if I'm watching.
Yeah. It was great. I mean, there was a huge crowd on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the racing was great. I mean, the racing on Sunday was fun too, but there were only stage cautions, I believe.
Yep, and it seemed to be Sunday a lot more spaced out too. Like, we had the problem in stage 2 with our steering pump, and I came back on track when stage 3 already started. But I came back on a track and it was spaced out. Like, I came back on a track and didn't see any car.
Yeah, it almost
I caught
looked like
Bubba
a
Wallace, who
sports
I think
car race.
Yeah, he was running, I think, 26th.
Yep.
And the gap from him to the car behind him was like half a straightaway. In the Xfinity Series, there's a lot more cautions, but it's a lot closer racing too. It's almost like a Miata race where there's racing going on for 30th in the Xfinity Series. There's races going on for 20th, but they're all really tight and really close racing, and I think that's what makes the Xfinity Series fun to watch, at least this weekend. The Cup Series occasionally has that, but this year it hasn't had that close racing or that excitement at the road courses.
So what happened on Sunday with the car?
Yeah, so we had a good car. We had
good qualifying effort. Yeah,
but the best qualifying effort I've had all year, and we were racing Kevin Harvick really hard in stage 1, which I thought was exciting, and he ended up finishing 10th. So that shows that we had a good car. Unfortunately, at the start of stage 2, we had a power steering pump leak, which was just a parts failure. It was a little tiny O-ring that failed, and unfortunately, that happened to my teammate a couple weeks prior to that in Sonoma. So we've had a lot of small little issues with this rack and pinion steering system in this car. So not just us either. I mean, the Hendrick cars, like Chase Elliott had something wrong with his steering the whole Road America race.
Oh, really?
Now, it probably wasn't as severe as mine or as Corey's, but my teammate had the same exact issue as what Chase had, just a lot more severe. So lap 1, my teammate already went in the pits and they had to fix that. So
was it taking on air, or what the team say was happening?
So mine was just leaking all the fluid.
Okay.
And it ended up being really notchy. So like halfway around the carousel,
gears on gears.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. And it would be really difficult to drive because it wouldn't go past a certain degree steering angle. Then all of a sudden it would just break free and go too far. And that made it really difficult to drive. And granted, you're using a lot of force in the steering because you don't have power steering to begin with. And then when it just kind of breaks free, it was a little scary. It was a little tough. So unfortunately, that was not the Cup race we had liked. Last year we finished 23rd, and it was a good race. I mean, we passed 3 cars, I think, on the last lap last year. It was an exciting race last year, so I was hoping we could at least beat that and get a top 20, top 15. Like I said, Kevin Harvick finished 10th, and we were racing him pretty hard in stage 1. So who knows what might have been had we not had that issue.
Do you see NASCAR continuing to invest in the road racing? Do you see more road courses being put on the schedule? I know there's rumors about Chicago.
Yes.
downtown.
Yep, I think that's going to happen. Matter of fact, I think it's about 99% that's
Really?
going to happen. Now, I hope that's not at the expense of a proper racetrack like Road America.
Yeah.
You know, we go to multiple tracks, Richmond, Kansas, twice,
Yeah.
that I think only deserve one date, and I think a lot of the garage, a lot of the industry feel it that way too. Road America, with it being on the 4th of July these last 2 years, I think it's been such a great turnout. I think it's been such a great crowd. I think all the industry loves it. All the drivers, every driver I've talked to loves Road America. So to lose Road America for a street circuit, I would feel I feel pretty devastated about that, honestly.
Yeah.
But I do think a street circuit would be good. I think it would be pretty cool. And I mean, iRacing, you know, we're talking about iRacing. iRacing's already kind of laser scanned that track, and we actually ran that configuration.
Yeah, you did well
on
on that.
iRacing. We finished second to
Yeah.
my teammate James Davison, who is a ridiculously good iRacer. So, you know, at least it's going to be interesting if they do it. I just hope it's not at the expense of Road America.
So why do you think they would get rid of Road America? I mean, you know, we're biased. You know, we're 25 miles from Road America right now, but I mean, there were, you know, hundreds of thousands of people there.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful weekend. Like I said, the drivers like it. Is it a contract and a money issue, or
Yeah,
what do you
I think it's a lot of
speculate?
politics.
Politics, okay.
NASCAR doesn't own the track. You know, most of the tracks
Oh,
we
yeah,
go to,
that's right.
NASCAR owns the tracks.
Okay.
NASCAR doesn't own Road America. So I think it's a lot of politics, a lot of behind the scenes going
Yep.
on. You know, Road America, I love Road America, but sometimes management there is not the easy to deal with too. So
Yep.
it could be something behind the scenes going on. Maybe Road America wants too much money.
Yep.
And, you know, now we have the street circuit. Chicago's willing to pay for that. There's a lot of politics that go on behind the scenes. So
True.
I'm not too sure. It's unfortunate, but I hope that we're back next year.
Yeah, I mean, we had a pretty good crew out there, and you know, saw a bunch of other people that I knew, and everybody just loves the weekend,
yeah.
especially this weekend where it wasn't on the 4th. You know,
Yep.
it was the 4th weekend. It was a blast. So I really hope they come back.
I do too.
Yeah. So how's the rest of the season going? How's the new team?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the Cup Series season, these last couple of weeks have been really rough. We
Yeah.
blew up in Nashville. Sonoma, we got spun,
Yeah.
and the strategy just never worked out to our favor after that. We started the season pretty good,
Yeah.
I'd say. I mean, you know, we had an 8th place at Daytona in the Xfinity Series. We capped that off with a couple of good runs in the Cup Series, 16th.
You led the Daytona race for
Yeah.
a few laps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So the Xfinity Series races that I've ran this year have all been really fun.
Yep.
A lot of fun. I mean, whether it's an oval or whether it's a road course. The Cup races, you know, like I said, we've started out pretty good. I think we've actually taken a step back, unfortunately, since then. And it's not really speed-wise. It's just mechanical failures. You know, we blew up at Nashville 2 weeks ago, and that was the first time all year that we had an engine issue. Sonoma, a couple weeks prior to that, we got spun out. So it's been frustrating. Couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm out of the car this weekend. WiLLcast is going to drive Atlanta, but I come back in New Hampshire, then Pocono, then Indy Road Course, and then Michigan. So I got 4 more races coming up with the
Nice.
Spire number 77 car, and we're looking to hopefully have a strong result at all 4 of those races.
What do you think of the Indy road course?
So I love the Indy
Yeah.
Road Course. I'm a road course guy,
Yep.
so I want all the road courses I can. I do think it would be cool to kind of have a doubleheader weekend, though. If there's a way you can race on the Indy Road Course one day on Saturday and then race the Brickyard the normal way
Yeah.
on Sunday, I think that would be really cool.
Do they still run the Brickyard?
They don't.
They
No,
don't.
This
Okay.
this is the new Brickyard. So
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next year. Maybe they go back to the oval.
Yeah.
But as a road course racer at heart, I'm okay with that. I love the road course.
Yep. Well, what else is going on? Anything interesting to go through? Or are you still kind of coming off the Road America weekend?
Yeah, I'm coming off the Road America weekend. Just making whatever I can out of the Sargento deal.
Yeah.
Every single interview I've given. I gave an interview with a local news station today that asked me about the Sargento deal, and yeah, so between that and just, you know, trying to make everybody happy with my sponsors and,
Yep.
and making sure that we're taken care of for the rest of the season.
Yep.
It's a lot of work. There's a lot of business that goes on behind the scene. I think we talk about it every single
No
time.
breaks.
No, and to be honest, I feel more pressure this year off the track and the business part of the sport than I do on track. So that's consumed a lot of my life, probably a little bit more than I would have liked. Getting to the racetrack, you forget about most of the business and you just focus on driving.
Yep.
So this off weekend, unfortunately, it won't be too fun, but I'll be back in the car next weekend. So yeah, besides that, we're already looking at next year, and hopefully I'll be back full-time with Spire, full-time.
Awesome.
That'd be really fun.
That'd
That'd
be
be
really
really cool. And hopefully we can elevate our program just a little bit and be exactly how the Team 7 is. So
Cool.
We'll see.
Well, man, thanks a lot for having us at Road America. It was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for making sure there was good weather, too. I got a little bit of a sunburn, but it was a
There's
lot of fun.
There's a little bit of rain. The rain on Saturday held out till after the race. I don't know if you were even there, but
No,
it started
no.
downpouring.
Did it really?
Probably around 7 or 8 o'clock. So
It wasn't like
for
one of
about
those
an hour.
Road America storms where it's in one corner at one part of the track? Or
No,
was
it was actually during the Trans Am, the TA1 race. I watched the end
Oh, I
of
was
the TA1
gone.
race,
Yeah.
and it started raining pretty heavily on the backside, and then it started raining everywhere for about an hour, and then it dissipated, and it was dry the rest of the weekend.
yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, well, I appreciate
Yeah,
your support. I mean,
absolutely.
without you, that Xfinity ride wouldn't have been possible. So that was
Well,
that was really
glad to-
special to have you guys there.
Glad to help out, and thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep.